as soon as something pulls on my snare.
Big rabbits, don't you think?
In my house, we try to only eat meat that we either hunted or caught, which means we rely very heavily on salmon and moose. And since I didn't get a moose this year, I'm going to have to make up that extra meat with small game hunting. I have a few friends that have been living off the land here for longer than I've been alive. And they've told me that the most effective way to keep a family fed through the winter is snaring. So that's what I'm here to try today. Here's a rabbit track. Their back feet are almost as big as the pad of my hand because when the snow is deep, they need to stay on top and float. So they've essentially got snowshoes, hence the name snowshoe hare. Now, I don't want to set my trap on a single set of rabbit tracks. So what I'm looking for is a rabbit highway. This rabbit highway has been used by many rabbits over the past 24 hours. This will be my simplest snare that I set today. So I've just got thin wire, picture wire, and I've got a pair of pliers in my multi-tool. I'm going to make a bite. See that? Just bent it over. Now I'm going to wrap it around itself 10 or 12 times. I'm going to take the other end and stick it through the loop I just made. What happens is the rabbit pushes his head through and keeps going, but this is tied to the log, and then it tightens up. It tightens around the carotid artery, and the rabbit goes to sleep very quickly, very peacefully. It's super important that this loop is the right size. So we're actually going to use my fist. I'm going to pull it around my fist and then bend the wire, just like that. Now my loop is going to sit right here, right along this highway. I have to brush in on either side of the snare so that the rabbits can't just go around the trap. They have to go through it. Got it fenced in on both sides. Put a couple sticks underneath it. Maybe just for good luck, I'll put one over top too. Here's another good set location. See this trail right here? But I want to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to look for a stake to go into the ground, but it's important to use a kind of tree that's not going to break. These spruce trees, for some reason, are not very brittle even when it's really cold. So I'm going to cut a green branch off of this tree right here. If I want to use the same trail to trap multiple days in a row, you don't want a dead rabbit sitting in the middle of the trail because the rabbits are going to learn not to use that trail anymore. So something that you can do, anchor your trap to a stake, but the stake is movable. So the rabbit's going to come through, get all tangled up, and pull the stake out of the ground and go, maybe 5 or 10 feet. And then this will get tangled in the brush. It'll be easy to track the rabbit because of the snow. It also makes a perfect tunnel for the rabbit to go through. That's a pretty good set right there. And hopefully in the morning, that spruce tree is either on the other side of the trail or just a short ways into the woods right there. Look at that tree. And then there's a highway right underneath it. What a perfect tree to set a trap under. I thought for sure in these low shrub willows and stuff there'd be a lot more hare tracks, but I'm not seeing anything over here. Apparently they like to be in the alders. That's gonna work. Okay, I have bank line here. I'm just gonna cut off more than enough. I'm gonna make a toggle trap. The smaller the trigger, the more sensitive the trap. But I'm gonna just tie a knot around this. Now I'm gonna pull this tree back down. I bent this tree down. I've got my bank line to my toggle. I'm going to use this toggle as the anchor to my trap. And I can set the sensitivity by moving the end as far to the right, just until it almost wants to go. And then I anchor to this right here. As soon as something pulls on my snare, the tree goes right back up into the sky. Let me show you what that looks like from further away. And as soon as a rabbit goes through and pulls on this stick, he gets pulled up and out of the trail. There's the trap being held by that string. And there's the toggle. I'm just going to adjust the sensitivity. I want it to be like a hair trigger. No pun intended. Finding natural branches to put your toggle against is really nice. You can make triggers, and I'll show you how to do that next. But I would much prefer just to use the natural woods. I know that I keep saying rabbits, and I'm going to get a comment down below, and somebody's going to correct me and say, they're not rabbits, they're hare. And I just want to let that person know that you are annoying. See this right here? I'm going to make a trigger stick out of that. So this is what it looks like, the piece that's still on the ground. And this is my little trigger mechanism. And this has a shelf, and this has an upside down shelf. And so they fit together just like that. And I'm going to put upward tension on this piece. And so when a rabbit comes and pulls on the trigger piece, it's going to come off of there and then go up because there's so much tension riding on this piece. I'm also going to put little grooves on the sides. And that'll just hold the wire more securely because it'd be a real bummer if the trigger mechanism became detached from the snare. There's the snare. And I kind of added these branches here on the sides to funnel them in. But even if I didn't, this is the convergence of a trail here and a trail here. And then they both go under here and then cross the trail right into my trap. I've got 5 traps set. I think I'm just going to get out here as quickly as I can, try not to disturb the area anymore, and I'll come back tomorrow, probably first light. I've been seeing coyote tracks through here, so I really don't want to catch a rabbit and then have it stolen. So I'll try and get here as quickly as possible, but I also need to give the traps time so that a rabbit can go through there. 5 traps, how many rabbits will I get? Trap number 1 is empty. It's freaking cold out here today. It's in the negatives for the first time this year. It doesn't look like anything used this trail last night, so on to the next one. There's trap number 2. Nothing again. Dang. I'm feeling a little discouraged. There's trap number 3. That one looks like it needs to be adjusted a little bit. I'm gonna mess with it. Before we moved to Alaska, we used to watch this show called Life Below Zero. And every time the characters on that show would set a trap, they would catch something. They set 10 traps, they catch 10 things. And I don't know if something goofy is going on with that show, but I've spent a decent amount of time trapping muskrats and different aquatic mammals, and then now I'm doing the rabbit thing. And success rates seem to be pretty low. I think that show gives an unrealistic expectation of what success looks like. But I've got 2 more traps. Maybe we'll get lucky. My trap with the spruce bough looks like something went through there, but didn't line up perfectly, so it bumped the trap off of the trail. So I would consider this one to be user error. Nothing. I readjusted all my traps. I guess I'll set more and I'll have 10 traps running tomorrow night. This was one of my snares and it actually broke. There's some rabbit fluff here. First one. That's pretty cool. It's not totally frozen, so it must have got trapped this morning. I caught him perfectly, right around the neck, just like you would want. Something I notice, it's not so much fencing in to the sides, it's fencing in from the top. Looks like this one caught something, but it's gone. I think I've been robbed. I've definitely been robbed. So far I've had 2 traps go off, and both of them had blood spots right where the trap was, and the trap was gone. And there's canine tracks, like a wolf or a coyote. I've checked 4 traps. 2 have caught something, but both were stolen. I see a rabbit right there. If I brought my bow, I can shoot it. There's one. One of the most common problems I have is the wire like cinching up in the cold and curling. So it actually curls itself off of the trail. It might be a function of the cold or just how stiff this wire is. So that wasn't going to catch anything. I got one more. So here's what I learned. Wire isn't a good option because single strand wire gets very brittle when it's cold outside. Then I switched to 100-pound test mirror hanging cable, and this is actually wire rope, not single strand wire. And the problem I had with that is it kept wanting to roll up on itself. So what I finally settled on was 50-pound picture hanging wire, and my traps are going off 50% of the time. So when I set 10 traps, about 5 will have had an animal in them, but the coyotes keep stealing them. I don't know what to do about that. The spring traps, where you bend down a sapling and then put a toggle in the ground, don't really work in the cold because the fibers in the wood have water in it, and then it freezes hard overnight and it will never spring back up. However, if it was warmer, my toggles did not need to be that sensitive at all because these rabbits pull hard. I don't like the movable saplings either. I don't like having to look for them. I want them to be where I set the trap. I don't really care if I can't set a trap there tomorrow. I'll just find another spot. Lately, all I've been using to clean these rabbits is a little razor blade. Rabbits, super easy to skin. You don't even need a knife. Just pull them off like a sock. gets a little tough around the ankles, and so some people just like hedge trimmer or shears to cut the legs off, but you can actually just snap them. And then take a little razor blade knife and cut off the tendon, and you're good to go. Now, I like to disassemble my rabbits instead of gutting them. I'll take the back straps, the back legs, and the front legs off. It just seems less messy that way. Here's the back legs. That's my favorite part. We're gonna eat these tonight. Thanks for watching.